Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. This is the second attempt. First time we crashed and burned. So we're going to try to do it again and see if we can continue where we left off. I'm not sure whether I should start from the beginning or what at this point. But before we're going to do it in order because I noticed that there were a few people that were a little confused and they sent me a message. So I'm going to start sharing a different screen. And this screen is going to be let me see, how do I do it? Okay, here we go. Let's see. Yep. I'm going to try to enlarge it so we can all see it, right? Okay. Here we go. Let's see if this works. Can everybody see that? Oh my God. This is not going to work. Let's see. There's got to be a way that I can bring that Excel sheet up and I can share it with everybody. There's got to be a way. I'm going to find a way to do this. Okay, but in the meantime, a couple of things that happened was that first, I found a live that I did back in the day. It was like 10 months ago, and I listened to it. I like on 1.50. My patience is not as good as it used to be. So when I listen to it, I'm going, oh my God, I wasn't that far out, right? But since so much has happened since the first trial actually ended, I was able to tweak, and I'm going, no, I was like correcting myself every time that I made a mistake or I didn't say the actual, what do you call it? The actual seconds. I was like, no, that's not the time. No. And I was fixing it like on the go, correcting myself. It was kind of cool. So I'm going to try to see if we can listen to this. And this is from trial 1. This is not from the second trial. It's all from the first trial. And this is when Jen is being crossed by Alan Jackson.
Short conversation as well. Is that right?
No.
That the record shows, I think it shows, pardon me. Unknown, correct? In terms of whether it was missed or answered?
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Sure. 12:29. I want to concentrate on the 12:29 a.m. call.
Okay.
That one in the Celebrite extraction, it shows in terms of whether the call was answered or not, the status is unknown, correct? It's on the last page.
Yeah.
From the second row from the top.
At 12:29. Unknown, yes.
Unknown. However, you've already acknowledged that y'all did have a short conversation on that 2:29.
No.
2:29 call, correct?
We didn't speak at 2:29. We spoke at 12:14 and we spoke at 12:18. We never spoke at 12:29.
So you're indicating that
Didn't talk to him, but somebody answered the phone.
Or otherwise. Went to voicemail, something.
The 12:29, yes.
Okay. I want to show you a document. Well, let me ask it this way. According to this, there were 6 more calls.
She deleted them all.
Between your phone and John O'Keefe's phone.
Correct.
Count, correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's before, or that's up to 12:50 a.m. Is that right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to show you another document. Or if I could approach briefly.
I'm going to stop it right here. I wanted to come in real quick just to give a little bit of background in regards to this.
Um, as everybody knows, a lot of stuff happened that day, and there were a lot of people calling each other. Coincidentally, the 1229 call that Jennifer McCabe placed to John O'Keefe, the only way that it makes sense to me was that at 1229, or a few seconds or maybe a minute prior to, Ryan Nagel, Sarah Mason, and Ricky D'Antano had already passed Karen Reed and seen her alone on her SUV with her hands in 10 and 3
2.
or 10 and 2, whatever they called it. They left.
Yes. So the call was actually placed at 12:29:44 seconds. And because Jen placed the call to John's phone, right, at 12:29:44, and it rang on John's phone, and it was answered for 7 seconds, not by John, but it was answered. The only logical explanation is that Karen had already left, because if Karen hadn't left, John's phone would have been still connected to the Lexus Bluetooth, right? So if Jen called at 12:29:44 and it rang on John's phone, logically, the Lexus left, let's say 12:29:30, right? And there's information out there that it was on or about that time that the Lexus disconnected from John's phone, the Bluetooth on the Lexus. So when you match Karen leaving somewhere approximately at 12:29:30 seconds, it makes perfect sense that she arrived to One Meadows and connected to the Wi-Fi at Jones' house at 12:36, because it is about a 6 to 7 minute drive, right? So she must have left at 12:29:30 or so to be able to get to John's house, and as she's pulling into the driveway, connecting to his Wi-Fi. And that's the house at the corner of One Meadows and Pleasant Avenue in Canton, for those who don't know. So that matches perfectly, beautifully. And it also matches with the fact that that's why John's phone rang and Jen called him. Now, did John answer that phone? I seriously doubt it. Did somebody answer that call? Absolutely. What happens when somebody calls you? If you are a contact of that person, let's say you have a picture or a little anime or whatever, right? Your name and your little picture comes up, and whoever is receiving that phone call knows that it is you calling. So somebody picked up that call and for 7 seconds talked to Jen. Now, she claims that she never talked to John at 12:29:44. And she said, quote, the last time that I talked to John was at 12:18:44. I never talked to John anymore after 12:18:44. That's what she says. Then who did she talk to? Why didn't Alan Jackson ask him? Then who picked up that phone? Because obviously it was somebody who knew her, because it saw that it was her calling, picked it up for 7 seconds, right? It wasn't a bot call. She can't claim that it was a bot call because it was answered on John's phone. So
Karen Reed left right after that.
mhm.
It had to be somewhere around 12:29, if not seconds prior, because that triggered Jen, who was looking outside the window,
Yep, that's
to
another.
grab the phone and start calling John.
Yep.
What we don't see is that simultaneously, right until the time that Karen left, she was also calling him. So there were calls going in and out at the same time from
Yes.
Karen, from Jen to John's cell phone. The last steps that John took were not from 12:31 a.m. to 12:32. And we're going to look at that log to get the exact minutes and the exact seconds. There's only shy of 24 seconds. That's the time period that it took to travel 83 point something feet from the front door to the flagpole area and break.
which is where the Lexus was. So if Jen called John at 12:29:44, it is 99% possible that she did see the car leave. And that 7-second call did happen, but not necessarily for what we think it happened. Now, I'm going to share this screen. I'm going to try to share this screen instead to show you something. Okay. And we're going to concentrate on this right here. 36 steps from 12:31:56 a.m. to 12:32:16 a.m. 0.34. Okay. And that was, okay, why am I not sharing that screen? Share screen. Here we go. Okay, I guess you can all see it. Let me see if we can see it. Yes, there it is. So if you do the math between 12:31:56, which is just 4 seconds prior to 12:32, right? Then you add those 4 seconds to the 16 seconds, and that's what? That's 20 seconds. 20 seconds. In 20 seconds, somebody took 36 steps. That means that they hell-ass that phone out of whatever it was that it was and brought it outside 34 Fairview towards the same location where they saw the Lexus leave. So what are the odds that that 7-second call, when she called and she was in a different location where Joan's phone was, okay? Because she was looking out the window. She probably saw the Lexus leave. So what are the odds that she calls and somebody says, or she says, Karen left. She finally left. The Lexus is gone. Karen is gone. And that's when then, and that's 12:29:44 seconds. Again, 12:29:44 seconds. Not even a minute goes by, maybe a minute and 12 seconds go by, and somebody grabs the phone from wherever it was and brings it outside. 36 steps, 20 seconds. The phone went kaput, okay? They turned it off. They put it on airplane mode. It didn't go on the Faraday bag right away. I can tell you that right now. I know exactly the time that it went on the Faraday bag. But somebody turned off that phone and put it on airplane mode. Now, what is even more interesting is that the last time that if you go from 12:24:22 in the morning and you see how many minutes have passed since the last steps that we're taking, and this is the health data, this is not the phone, this is the health data on John O'Keefe. So from 12:24:22 to 12:31:56, it is approximately 7 minutes. 7 minutes had passed with no freaking activity. No activity whatsoever. From 12:24:22, when the last steps were taken, until when he starts taking steps at 12:31:56 only for 20 seconds. So why? Why isn't there any activity between 12:24:22 to 12:31:56? Has anybody thought about that? Has anybody thought that maybe that's when John was down at 12:24:22? And just like Loophole Lawyer says, let's jump into this for a second so you can hear this. Because this is what surprises me, because this evidence has been out for a long time. But look what he says. And I put the captions so you can hear when he says that he was out for it took them 9 minutes to get to 34 Fairview.
Saying that he arrived at 12:24. I can't figure out how,
He did not arrive at 12:24.
because even if you took a different route,
They did take a different route. They did not go through Chapman, which is the short route. If you go from the waterfall to Chapman, and John and Karen left between 12:09, 12:10, right? It would have taken them by 12:14, 12:15, they would have already been at 34 Fairview, but they didn't. The only people who went through Chapman were the people who knew where they were going. Karen and John did not know where they were going. And even if John, because a lot of people have said, and John didn't know where Brian Albert lived, he had been living in Canton since whatever, right? Which is very possible that he had an idea where he lived, but yet he's drunk. He's giving directions to Karen, and he's not the one driving. So, he's trying to figure out, so where are we going? And mind you, Karen did not want to go to 34 Fairview. She would have gladly gone for pizza, but she did not want to go to 34 Fairview. She didn't feel invited. She didn't hear the invitation extended to her. And when she brought John over, she said, I wanted him to give me the thumbs up that are we okay to come in? Because she didn't feel that they were invited to 34 Fairview.
it was only like a minute longer. So
Right.
I actually told you that I started to pen Emily a sincere apology for yelling at her about the confirmation bias is so real, because like all I wanted to do was to
real.
prove, yeah, and
There's no confirmation bias when you're looking at numbers. It's black and white. The evidence is there. It's been there since trial 1 ended. It's been out. There's evidence available in this stuff. So when it comes to the phones specifically, and if I'm not mistaken, the evidence number on John O'Keefe's cell phone, the call log, is 22-9893110. And I repeat, John O'Keefe's iPhone 11 call log evidence, public evidence available, is 22-989310. Okay. Now, the landmark situation, when we're talking about like Bella's mom and all of that, in understanding that Fairview is only like so close, so close to the waterfall that you start thinking. So if Jen wanted them to come over, Jen had been trying to separate Karen from John before they left the bar. That's what Karina Kolakisa said, remember? So the entire time they were trying, and Jen was standing outside when John came out, and she is seen clearly in the parking lot, freezing her behind off, and is still trying to see if she can either separate them and get them to come out or get them to hang out for some reason, right? John and Karen leave. Kolakitha says that she sees them leave. I have it from Sean McDonough that Kolakithas and her husband drove in different vehicles. So Matt McCabe is seen walking out of the waterfall with Kolakithas. Kolakithas goes in his car. He goes first. Matt McCabe goes after. Jen is already inside the Yukon waiting on Matt. Matt walks out of the waterfall a few minutes, not even a minute before Chris Albert comes out. You can see their Yukon going around, and then you see Chris's head, coming over around the canopy there, and he looks to the right and doesn't see anybody. Looks to the left and sees the Yukon that is about to pass him, and he heads that way. So we'll go back to that. But my point with all of this is that if they jumped in their Lexus and they were not sure whether they were going to 34 Fairview or not, and Jen starts texting, right? And then they leave, and Jen starts calling at 12:18, 44 seconds, and starts telling John, oh, come over, let me get... She was controlling the entire time their arrival, because she could have told them how to get to 34 Fairview the short way, right? But she didn't. Why? Because she was still at the waterfall. Matt didn't come out like a minute before Chris Albert came out. When you invite somebody over to your house, do you want them to get there first or do you want to get there first? She wanted to make sure they were all there before they showed up. As a matter of fact, Lana just revealed that the call that Jen made at 12:18:44, as she was arriving to 34 Fairview, which she arrived there by 12:19 tops, the call started from inside the car. You know, Lana from Truth and Transparency? Yeah, her. So if you see Chris underneath that canopy, looking to the right and then looking to the left, seeing the Yukon going in, and it came out on evidence also that Chris followed Chris Albert to 34 Fairview. Haven't you stopped and wondered why Chris never texted John? There's no text, there's no nothing, there's no calls from Chris Albert's phone. I know we don't have Chris Albert's extraction, but all the calls showed on John's phone, right? Why wouldn't somebody who invited John to the waterfall from earlier in the day when him and his nephew came over and bought slices of pizza, doesn't call John, doesn't whatever, doesn't follow up and figure out if he's coming to 34 Fairview or not? Why wouldn't he? Where he could be listening to Jen, right? He could be inside that Yukon, right? That's probably how he got to 34 Fairview. Or not. Is that a possibility? Because for me, in my mind, that's the only explanation why is Chris not texting John and asking him if he's going to 34 Fairview? At the end of the day, he was the one who invited him to the waterfall, right? And then from the waterfall, that's when the invitation came about to go to 34 Fairview, right? Because the parking lot was no longer going to happen. So let's pretend that it is Jen controlling the arrival of Karen and John O'Keefe arriving to 34 Fairview, okay? And she sent them on the long way to get there to make sure that she got there first. So they are at 34 Fairview at 12:19. Are we following? 12:19. So I'm going to share this tab instead. At 11:09, right here, this is when they left the waterfall, Vinny. And you're right, it was 9 minutes, but to be exact, it was 9.95. And you see it here? It's always been on evidence. It's always been there. This is John O'Keefe's health data. Evidence number 22989310. It's public record. Anybody can get it. 9.95 minutes. That's how long that drive took. Now, if you notice, and I know you're going to have this question about this 12:21:05, but we're going to get into that. I'm going to let you sweat a little because you guys don't answer questions right away either. So yes, she did. But, and we're going to stop right there. That U-turn that she made, not the U-turn, the turn that she makes, that's the 3.4 turn when she passes on Cedar Crest and she misses the turn to Fairview. What's important about this 3.4 turn is that you cannot argue it, because if her car, if the Lexus and Waze is going on Cedar Crest and pass the turn to 34 Fairview, it is inevitable that she had to turn around to then meet Ricky Dantano, Ryan Nagel, and Sarah Mason at the corner of Cedar Crest and Fairview, where the Lexus did what? Made a right. The F-150 did not give the right of way to the Lexus. The Lexus was making a right. It was the F-150 who was making a left. So when they met in that corner, maybe Karen slowed down as she was going to her right, and the other car, of course, stopped. And that's what they meant, that they let them go. They had to let them go because it was their right of way to turn right. And that, my friend, is exactly what happened at 12:21:05. 12:21:05. That's when they intersected in the corner of Cedar Crest and 34 Fairview. 12:21:05. I don't know if you're following me here. Let me see if I can. It's not letting me. Why is not letting me? Yeah, it's let's see. Twelve 21:05. Let's see. Let's see. I'm doing this live to see if I can just show you. There we go. My God. Okay, so here we go. So at 12:21:05, they meet at that corner. Okay, Karen goes to the right and continues on and parks by the mailbox at what? 12:21:10. Don't forget, this is the health data on John, right? This is the evidence Apple health steps. So it's counting when the steps are happening. Okay. 9 minutes and 95, 9.95 minutes is what took them to go from the waterfall to the corner of Cedar Crest and Fairview. By 12:21:10 a.m., he was already taking 80 steps. And I remind you, those 80 steps was when he was going westerly per Ian Whipgreen towards the house. 80 steps westerly towards the house. And he was inside that house for exactly 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Let's let that sink in for a minute. So we're going to go back here.
The phone. That was the last known place where
Where the
everybody
Lexus was
who
seen.
was keeping an eye on Karen saw Karen and her Lexus parked outside. And that's where they brought the phone from 12:31 to 12:32. That was a trajectory of 24 seconds in the cold. 24 seconds. For John to have made that trajectory himself, it's impossible.
Impossible.
Judging by the injuries that he
It's
had
impossible.
sustained from where? From 12:21:10 a.m. to 12:20
And 22 seconds. Mm-hmm. That house. Of 24:22, 12:31:56. 7 minutes. Wow. Guess what? You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Mm-mm. And somebody brought it up. And yeah. Spam. And that's funny because by then I was saying dropped it off in the location, right? Like thinking that it was dropped off. Don't forget, this was about 11 months ago or so, when I did that live. So everything changed after that because more information came out, and I noticed that the phone went off the grid, meaning it had no exposure to any cell phone towers. It was transmitting no locations whatsoever, no frequencies. It's almost like it became extraterrestrial. It went to Neptuno and it just left Earth and it was gone. But the only thing that made sense, which I started thinking going back to my whatever days, we're not gonna get into that, Faraday bags. Then what happened was the Canton police audit happened. And when the Canton police audit happened, the report became public. Somebody sent me a copy. And guess what I found? It was a little tiny piece hidden in one of the pages. And I'm going to try to post it on the comment section later. That said that every patrol and surveillance vehicle in Canton PD, the auditors found that they were in compliance because all of them had a Faraday bag. They all came equipped with a Faraday bag. Would you believe it? At that point, I blew it up and I started, oh my God, oh my God. And I started like passing that I thought that was the confirmation that I needed, because even though I thought about it, I had no proof about it, right? Like, I'm not going to joke and say that I am investigating a case when I know that I am not an investigator. I analyze what's out there to help the investigators. So, others can do that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So, going back to our thing, it made all the sense in the world. Why? Because the phone specifically at, where am I at? Here we go. At 12:32:16, when they turn it off and maybe they put it on airplane mode. I can't prove it. I can't prove that. But the activity and the behavior of that phone, and what I'm looking at, evidence number 22989310, and the rest of the evidence that I have looked at in regards to John O'Keefe, is exactly that. That's what it pretty much, it tells a freaking story. And it tells you that at a specific time, I don't want to give that out yet because, everybody's taking stuff like, yeah, I'm going to be first revealing this stuff. So I'm going to hold on to my little nuggets. But at 12:32:16, it was turned off, potentially placed in an airplane mode. And it went sort of like semi kaput, right? Now, if we go back to the same, let's go back to this one.
Plot out the actual course she took. And
Mhm.
ultimately, what we're going to see is that it took 9 minutes from the library to 34 Canton based upon the route that she took. So then it's like, oh, thank God I don't have to apologize to Emily because this is the last thing I wanted to do.
Well, and there's a couple other details too that actually support the 1224, right? First, if we don't have this text to verify this, I don't know why we never saw it, but
wait. That support what 1224? We don't have this text. So what are we talking about?
Right, we get this, or what we know,
Oh my God.
at least from trial and from Alan Jackson verifying the timestamp of this text, that at 12:23, Julie Nagel's brother sends a text.
Okay, so, oh my gosh. I'm going to have to take a break because it's like, this is about to blow my mind. So, in trial 1, and I'm not sure whether you all missed it or what happened, or maybe you were partying or traveling or on vacation. Well, the rest of us, we were, working our minds off here. But I don't know if you remember that Juliana Nagel testified that initially she had made plans to have her brother pick her up, right? Do you remember that? And that around, I can't remember what time it was, she said that her brother came and picked her up, but JJ, which ironically, that's how they called John O'Keefe, right? It was JJ. But right after John died, guess who became JJ? Jennifer Judith Weeks McCabe. JJ told Juliana Nagel that she would take her home. Nope, I'll take you home. You're not going anywhere. Because in the middle of this chaos, where are you going? No, I'll take you home. So if we're looking at the same data, about John's phone and the steps he took, right? And we are assuming that at 12:21, I'm not assuming, I am dead certain that at 12:21:05, he was at the corner of Cedar Crest and Fairview. And at 12:21:10 a.m., he was getting out of the car and going really quickly towards the door on the side and went on the breezeway door, as Karen said it, right? So at 12:24:22, he stops walking. John is down. Okay? Whoever gave him the last punch that sent him to fall backwards and fell on the ground and hit his head, it had already happened at 12:24:22 based on his health data. Why? Because after 12:24:22, there's 7 minutes of no activity until that phone is rushed outside in 20 seconds. So in order for this to make sense, you need to understand that Ryan Nagel was following right here. 12:21:05, they met at the intersection. 12:21:10, Karen is at the mailbox. She's parked outside by the mailbox. Okay, one car occupying one space in time, physically, right? You can't put another car in there because the Lexus is right there by the mailbox. So if at 12:21:10 a.m., Karen is outside, right? And she sees, and the other car is following her, which is right behind her, 5 seconds or so, less than a minute behind her. She has had to move further away from the mailbox between 12:20, right after 12:21:10, 12:22, to allow the Ford F-150 to park by the mailbox. Now you go and you find out why. Well, because this driveway consists of 3 lanes, sort of, right? There's one that is like almost man-made to the side, to the curve. That is, if you're facing the house, from the street, the farthest lane to the right is sort of like catty corner and ends up with a tree, and then there's the white fence, right? But in the first lane, where Brian Albert normally parks, all the way closer to where the garage is. That's the closest one to the mailbox. And that is the pathway from the street, from people to walk from the street past the mailbox all the way to the house and take either or of the 3 doors that are available. Either go to the left and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and take the steps and go through the front door, or take that middle door in the middle that takes you to the dining room or the foyer area, or take the breezeway of the door that is to the left that goes into the garage, right? Those are the only 3 possible ways. But the point here is that if John stopped at 1221.05 in the corner of Cedar Crest and Fairview, and then took a right, and by 1221.10, he was stopped in front of the mailbox, and Ryan Nagel and Ricky Dentano and Sarah Mason met them in that corner. It just took a few seconds for that Ford F-150 to pull right behind Karen. Karen doesn't know who they are. They don't know whether they're coming and going. They don't know whether they're picking up or dropping off, right? She's being nice. So she pulls forward, right? She pulls forward to allow them to use that walkway towards the house. That means that between 1221.10 and 1224.22, that Ford F-150 was there. Now, it's going to get even more interesting. You know why? Because if Ricky Dantano texted Juliana Nagel to come out, and don't forget, the Lexus left at 12:29:30 at least, right? Which means that Ryan Nagel left earlier because they all saw Karen with her hands at 10:02, right? If Juliana Nagel comes out anywhere between 12:23, 12:24, guess what happened? John was already down. And that's why JJ told her, you're not going. We're taking you. You and Sarah Levinson. So Juliana Nagel comes out and tells Ryan, hey, sorry, plans changed. JJ changed my plans. There's shit going on in this house. So, or doesn't say anything and says, hey, JJ is going to take me home. And comes back up, right? Don't believe all the little details that these people have used in testimonies to decorate and put little, ornaments around everything that's happened. Stay to the basics. Let's just stick to the basics and try to figure out, based on the available data, what could have happened within what time frame. Now, I'm going to give you another nugget. Do you remember that Jen McCabe asked Juliana Nagel for her phone to see the photo, the screenshot that Jen deleted from Juliana Nagel's phone? Was it the text that Ryan Nagel sent her at 12:23? Because, or at 12:23 or at 12:24, delete that text message? Because it would imply that everything happened earlier rather than later, which is what they've been trying to push. That's the narratives that they've been trying to push since the beginning. They're claiming that the text messages that were sent at 12:20 were sent at 12:25, 12:27, 12. No. They were read at different times. The times in which text messages are sent are different from the times that text messages are read. So it cannot be argued that Ricky Dantano was right behind Karen Reed. And if Karen Reed stops by the mailbox at 12:21:10, guess where Ricky Dantano and Ryan Nagel and Sarah Mason were? Right behind her tail. So anywhere between 12:21:10 and 12:24:22, Karen sees that Ford F-150 coming behind her, doesn't know who it is, doesn't know whether they're dropping off or picking up, and she moves forward. That Ford F-150 pulls forward. Juliana Nagel sees the Ford F-150, but she didn't see the Lexus, but she sees it, and she gets a text, I'm here, okay? Nope, Jen is going to pick me up. Let's say it was at 12:24, 12:25, 12:26, still within the time frame. But John is already down from 12:24:22, and they probably already knew that there was a fight that broke loose in the garage, in the basement, anywhere, right? I mean, the house is not that big. You can't tell me that if something is going on in a different room, everybody's not going to listen. I mean, the dog heard, for God's sakes. The dog ran. The minute the dog felt the commotion, it ran. That's what happens with dogs. So, that's the text that Jen McCabe wanted to see out of Juliana Nagel's phone. But I don't know if you already know that or not. Maybe you don't know that Jen asked Juliana Nagel for her phone so she could delete pictures or text messages or screenshots that she has taken. Yeah, she did.
As here, or I'm outside, or whatever. Let's assume he sends that a few seconds before, as he's making the turn.
He made the turn at 12:21:05, right after Karen.
And it's feasible to say, okay, she comes out, let's say a minute or two later. Now, we also heard, and this is weird, that she took a minute or two to arrive, to actually go outside for whatever reason, that they had been waiting there. And he.
Since when do we hear or listen or believe what the witnesses say? Since when? But a minute or two is fine. It's within the time frame.
Actually sends a follow-up text like, we're going to leave or something.
Yeah.
No. And she didn't send any follow-up text. She came out and told them that she wasn't leaving, that she was leaving with JJ, that JJ was going to take her and Sarah Levinson home.
Yep.
So that all makes sense. It fits with the timeline that at 12:24 they arrive.
No. They didn't arrive at 12:24. John was dead by 12:24, and I'm going to get even more specific. He was dead by 12:24 and 38 seconds, and I'll tell you why later.
If we go based on, it had to have been between 12:23 and let's say 12:25 that they're sitting out there waiting for Julie, and would reason, it would make sense that Karen's in front of him right at that time.
And maybe she's saying, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that had we seen the text at 12:23,
it was shown in court. It was shown. But then again, don't forget, the times on text messages can be modified. So, I mean, is it more, how do I say it? Is it safer to go by the existing data that pulls up from the extraction of the phones? And we're going to talk about that later too. Or is it safer to go by a text message that is produced by somebody whose phone extraction was done by her husband and handed to Guarino on a flashlight drive? You didn't know that? Yeah. Jen McCabe's phone was handled by Matt McCabe, and it was handed to Guarino in a flash drive.
it's likely it would have been something where you send the text to your sister in anticipation of her being late and coming out. So we don't know exactly where he is, but you can actually get that information if you get to his phone and you get to his.
No. So, okay. So we never extracted Ryan Nagels, Derek Dantano, Sarah Mason, Juliana Nagels, or Sarah Levinson. We never extracted any of those phones, right? But you don't need it to figure out the proximity of the two if both of them on testimony say that both cars met in the corner of Fairview and Cedar Crest at the same time, right? If you see the call data, the health data from John's phone, and you know that the last time that Jen called John was at 12:18:44, then she texts him. Well, first she texts him at 12:20 and says, here. And then Higgins texts him at 12:20:26. Are you coming here? 12:20:26. By 12:21:05, that's when they are meeting, because they already told you that they met at that intersection. And that's the only stop that John takes with Karen in the car at 12:21:05 before they pull up right in front of Fairview at 12:21:10. So where do you think Ryan Nagel and Sarah Mason and Ricky Dantano are going to be if it's not coming right behind Karen's behind or the Lexus behind. It's right there. So you don't need their data information at all.
Actual location data,
No.
you can get the exact time. I've never seen any of that. People say that the text exists. I've never seen it. So I don't really account so much for it, but there's definitely plausible deniability that it didn't take place at exactly when he was in front of the house.
Right. Yes. Yep. But either way, I think we're talking about that window, and that is, makes perfect sense. I'm fine with 12:24 being the time that he shows up. I don't think there's anything too scandalous.
It's not about being fine. It's not like, you feel comfortable about him, about being there at 12:20. It's the facts. It's what happened. It's the truth. It's what the paper and the ink and all the evidence information reveals. It's not that, okay, well, I'm fine if Karen hit John and just left him there. No, we can't be fine with anything. We need to rely on everything that we can see and attest, use as documentation to justify what we say. Otherwise, we're confusing the heck out of people. I mean, it's like, when you live with your mom and dad and one says, yeah, you can go, and the other one says, no, you can't go. Well, you can be here by 1 o'clock in the morning, and the other one says, you got to be here by 11. It's like, who am I listening to?
It's about that. I know there's controversy. To me, it doesn't really matter either way too terribly much, whether he shows up at 12:21, 12:22, 12:23, or 12:24. There's a couple other things that I want to make clear, because I saw just in different places people talking about this. First, I realized, I don't know why it never dawned on me before, because I've driven past 34 Fairview a few times, and there really is no place to park in front of 34 Fairview. You could maybe pull up for a few seconds the way that Karen and the way that Ricky Dantano does, but you're not going to leave your car there. It wouldn't make sense. There is no way to do that. There's only 2 lanes. It's a very weird spot, and it's pretty highly trafficked. Now, during a snowstorm, middle of the night, fine, but I still can't imagine.
No, you can't park there. The policy around the city is that if it's snowing or there's a storm, you cannot leave your car outside on the streets. That's why Loki Logren was asked if he reported it. And he didn't call it in as a courtesy to the Alberts. Why was it a courtesy to the Alberts? Because their Alberts 4H was parked outside by the flagpole. Oh my God.
Imagine anyone's leaving their car there. And we know that in that driveway, there's actually 3 lanes. So there's the 2 lanes, but we know from both Matt McCabe and I think from Brian Albert or Nicole that they actually use 3 separate lanes. There's room on that right side to pull right up. So it's feasible that, there's plenty of parking at 34 Fairview for nobody to have to park in front. The other thing that I think is
unless, hello, you have a Jeep with a plow that it's a 7-inch. It comes in a 7, it comes in a 12. He got the smaller aftermarket plow. He got the 7-inch, Sam. You can't park a Jeep Wrangler with a plow on the right side of the driveway when you have a car. You have Brian Jr.'s white 4H. You have Nicole Albert's 2020 Cadillac, metallic blue. You have Boston PD government 4H also there, that was being driven by Brian Albert. Behind the Cadillac, you have a Yukon Denali, nonetheless. Hello, have you seen that tank? You can't park a Jeep Wrangler. There's no plenty of room. The only thing that you could have parked was somebody else behind Brian Albert, and then it would have been like butt to butt with the mail post, right? Blocking the walkway towards the house on an upcoming snow situation where you want to leave a clear path, right? Somebody's already behind Nicole, right? And there is also the car for Brian Albert Jr. So you're suggesting that he's going to try to catty corner it and not hit the Yukon that's there and park it right? No.
Important, because I heard people talking about, well, she's driving really slow and, why would it take so long? So
because
there are, and Emily reminded me of this the other day on a group chat, that there's a number of stop signs.
I mean, he's drunk. She's driving. right? He let her drive. So that means that he was even drunker than her. So they're going all over town. Jenny's controlling the situation. She's controlling their ETA to that house. Until they got there, she did not want them to get there because they wanted to know when they actually pull up. Okay? She gives them the reference of Bella's mom's house. You're missing a lot of like little details that are pretty intrinsic to this situation there. It doesn't work that way. You gotta marry every single detail together. It's gotta click, almost like a perfect match. Because if you don't, then you're gonna have loopholes and loose ends all over the place.
It's a very, it seems like it should be so quick, but I could also see if you stop at all the stop signs, there's stop lights all the way through. It's actually kind of a tedious drive from Washington to Fairview.
No, it is.
Yeah, and maybe we should go into the video then, since we're on it now. It's only a 3-minute one, but yeah, you're 100% right. It's only 3 miles, but it does take about 9 minutes according to Google. And of course, the turnaround that she had to make, and if she was stopping at the stop signs, actually they have proof. Did you find the video link?
I got it. Yep.
Okay, yeah. They have proof of Karen slowing down. Oh, sorry, John's phone slowing down and then clustering, because once he turns on Waze,
it had to slow down because they passed, they were almost there, but they missed the turn. So then they slowed down to make the 3.4 turn. And after they do that, that corner is right there. It's right there. Like it took no time. So then they have to stop, slow down, stop. Why? Because there's an F-150 that is in front of them that is trying to turn left. So finally, they give them the right of way. So they go ahead and go. And they slow down because the house is coming up. So that's why, oh my God.
It's really sensitive with regard to the location. And there is a little silver lining for you who's frozen right now in time.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
At the end, with regard to Ian Whiffen admitting that the phone does travel west from that
westerly
final resting point. That's very critical because it's not using the Waze data anymore. It's using just the
oh my God. Okay, so the phone doesn't use. Okay, oh my God, no, that's I
phone. And I believe that's sort of what Karen Reed wanted the expert to say with regard to the phone. But the previous information with regard to John going up and down, I mean, that's a big controversy, right? There was 3 flights that were on, there were 80 steps, and we're trying to count the steps to go around the back, and that's all not relevant anymore. And if we're assuming that this information is correct, so there's a lot of energy spent on that time frame between 12:21 and 12:24 because we saw steps and we saw 3 flights taken.
Whoa, he just said it from 12:21 to 12:24.
Yeah. The other thing too, and I know this again from counting steps and trying to match data and all this, there is a small lag. So I'm not sure how important that is. I'm not sure what to make of this cell phone data. Like how specific, how can we trust it? When there's no steps registering, for example, on that phone, does that mean the phone isn't moving? Now, some people are taking it.
No. I mean, look, all it takes, if you want to find out without any background in forensics or analytics as far as what it comes to phones, is take your phone. Take it. Like, look at how many steps have you walked today, right? And like, I'm looking at mine right now, and it tells me 1,827, but I ran. So you can look at it. So right now it's static. It's been static since I started doing the last time before the first one went kaput. So it hasn't moved, and I'm looking at it. It hasn't changed. It tells me exactly when was the last time that I took a step. If I get up right now and go to my car and I am about to leave, it's going to register the steps from the time that I get up until the time that I get to where my car is. It's going to be at least 50, 60 steps. And then it's going to go again static because I'm in the car. Now, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the health data on the phone. The steps that the phone takes, it's on the Apple thing that it registers like Waze, like I'm leaving. waste feeds off of oh my God, I don't know that I want to
literally, like it literally means the phone is not moving if no steps are being logged. And I'm assuming that's true based on other people's interpretations, but I have no knowledge of cell phone data. I only have what's in front of us. And again, if you're trying to figure out where the phone is that morning, it does not line up with anybody there. Now you could say, okay, well, maybe somebody's it's multiple people. You're handing the phone is being handed around. We also have a lot of eyes because we do have these 4 different dash cam video footage.
We have had the dash cam video footage for a long time, both from Saraf and from Sergeant Good. Since the end of trial 1, we have had both views of those dash cams. You know what else we have had? The 911 call. Do you know what else we have had? The call that Carrie Roberts placed to Sergeant Good before the 911 called, when she talked to Sergeant Good and she let Sergeant Good know that they were looking for a Boston police officer named John O'Keefe. So when Good picked up the phone when Jen called, guess what? He should have already known that it was John Good. My point with this, and I know that I jumped from one thing to another, is to point out it is obvious. You can't, the way, oh my God. I don't even know that it's worth pointing it out at this moment. I want to clarify things for people because I'm getting a lot of text messages. I'm getting a lot of hits. People are confused. Why this? Why that? Why is it that now is this? No, nothing has changed. The information that Corey has been kindly sharing with everybody, if anything, is adding fuel to the information we already had. Lana had worked extensively on this, auditing all this stuff, and she bounces right from one, because you do have to consider the possibilities. You have to consider different options, but the data has always remained the same. And that's the only thing I'm going to agree with Hank Brennan. The data doesn't change. Everything is about the data, and it is so freaking true. But guess who's an expert about the data and didn't bring it up? Robert Alessi. Because just like Loophole Lawyer, just like Vinny said, every lawyer has to become an expert on topics and subjects that they are about to argue. Because if you lack of competence, how good is your argument? And if your argument is not good enough, how good is your strategy? And if your strategy is not good enough, whoever puts their fate in your hands, it's SOL, if you ask me.
Now we can see, for example, when Carrie's shaking out the blankets, there's no phone. We can track her the entire way. We see her going to get the.
Matt McCabe handed the phone to Lank. Hello? El señor McCabe le dio el teléfono a Lank. He se lo dio. He handed it to him. Se lo dio. Se encontraron en algún sitio en el camino, and he handed the phone to him. Do you know that Matt McCabe did not go with Jen McCabe to go find the guy? The guy on the snow? He didn't go with her, with his wife. Why? Why wouldn't he go with his wife after Kaylee called to put Karen on the phone, and Jen told Karen, come and pick me up? Why not? I'll meet you, right? No, come and pick me up. I need to delay you, Karen, because the 90 minutes aren't up. I understand that you guys came in sort of like halfway in the middle of all this stuff, and I do appreciate everything that you do. And for the most part, there are stuff that I do enjoy, and I respect both of you. But it's confusing new people that are coming in are trying to understand, and regardless, right? Everybody wants justice for John. We want to find out who did this. Well, I have news for you, Vinny. It wasn't Higgins. And I have you for you, Samantha. All the shit that you've been doing that like away and distracting you from your behavioral analysis, it's been done before. Focus on the behavioral analysis, because that's what was helping us put some of this stuff together. But this data crap, it's outside of your field. It's just not your thing. It's just stay away from it. It's just making you look bad, man. Psychologist, just You know what? Just do whatever you want. I mean, who am I to tell you what to do, right?
Blankets. We see her pick the blankets up. We see her come all the way
Wow.
back. So we see her throw the blankets in the back of her car. There's no phone. So it's bizarre. I will fully admit it is very bizarre. I should also just say this because it's true. There is a moment when Michael Lank gets in that Seraph's cruiser and he says, "Is this your phone?" to Stevie. He
Seraph.
says,
That's called pulling a stunt. That's what that's called. Hey, is that your phone? Why didn't he get on the car where he arrived? Why? Have you thought about that? But he didn't get on Good's car, right? Because Good already know that it was John O'Keefe, right? Saraf didn't. Have you thought about that? That Saraf was maybe the only one that wasn't in it? Because Saraf was in his cruiser when all this stuff happened. He was sitting by the police station in the other side of the parking lot where the church is. And that's when Good told him and dispatched him to go to 34 Fairview. But Saraf had nothing to do with it. He just went to 34 Fairview. But Lank goes to Saraf's car to pull his stunt, and don't say for a second that he doesn't have what it takes. He doesn't have the talents to pull this off, because the reason why he did it and grabbed the phone was because someone was coming out to help Jen. He is who came out to help. Did you hear that phone call that was recorded on Karen's phone that was left behind Carrie's car? Did you know that Jen McCabe actually placed that call from inside the 2019-2020 Ford Explorer Silver 4x4 sunroof owned by Carrie Roberts with the windshield wipers going? Did you know? We're not all caught up.
"Oh yeah, Seraph." And then he turns to Sean Good and he says, "Is this yours?" Right? And he's like, "I'm gonna take a picture of it." So that's odd. Seraph's like, "I think that's his phone. I think that's his phone."
Mhm.
So there is a mysterious phone in that cruiser that morning. I'd love for it to be John's, but it just isn't lining up with the information on the phone.
Unfortunately, it does. And if you want to continue to go that way, we already did it, so we don't have to spend any more time on it. So go ahead. Help yourself.
Now, that doesn't mean it isn't his phone. I don't know what it means. I will say this, though. It's very hard for me to believe that the Alberts would make such a huge mistake. Like, how could you possibly separate that phone from John?
Because they didn't, Sam. They didn't. The phone was taken outside the house. And at 12:32 and 16 seconds, it was either turned off, placed on airplane mode, and it left 34 Fairview. It wasn't at 34 Fairview. I'm not going to give you the last nugget because I'm not going to tell you what time it went to the Faraday bag. I'm not going to do it. And I've never had the experience of falling in love with somebody as quickly as I've fallen out of love with somebody. It's like, oh my God. Yes. And I am frustrated about the narratives being changed. The fact that it feels like we're confusing people more than, the dump that Corey has done with all this evidence that she was able to pull and obtain from in regards to the trial. The sidebars are like golden. And then what we're doing is what? Like using it to confuse. Some of this stuff was done and extensively. So I'm going to ask you a question. Why don't you ask Lana to join you? Because at the end of the day, she was the only one who was actually working on this nonstop 24/7. And you know why I know? Because I was too. Every single time that she was live with her projector and all her computers and working and auditing with a pen in her ear and another one in her hand, a lot of us were too. And she already has all this data down. While there were other people that were building like tiny houses and stuff and vacationing elsewhere, you know, she was working her behind off. Call her, invite her over, and see what if she can make sense of it. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. You're not afraid of her, right? I mean, your level of preparation as far as academic goes, I know that it's based in psychology and therapy and drug abuse and all of that, and 6-year candidate, blah, blah, blah. But she's twice a Fulbright scholarship recipient. I don't know if you know that. And you guys complement each other. Because when it comes to math and analysis, she's the one who you would like to have by your side. And when it comes to sociological, psychological, whatever, behavioral, whatever, you would be perfect for her to have by her side. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
That is such a stupid thing to do. It would have to be the most incredible oversight. It would have had to have dropped out, right? Because obviously, whoever starts moving that phone is moving it at the exact time, almost the exact time. It's just a little lag when they pull up, right? So either somebody's in that house, wants to make it look like they are the ones that are finding the phone and starts moving around like crazy. And
No. At 6:04, that phone came back to life. It came back to Earth. I don't know if you know that. At 6:04:01, you see it right there? At 6:04:01. And it took just a little bit of 7.48 minutes between 6:04 and 6:11. Did you notice what time that Matt McCabe showed up at? It was right after Lang, right? So how do you know he didn't? Jen went one way with Karen, and Matt had something to do, and he was the one who handed the phone to Lank. Lank shows up at the scene first. Matt McCabe shows up later. Lank already has the phone. All they wanted was a way to get that phone back to 34 Fairview, right? And you know what else? That 6:04 time, when he comes back to life, seconds after the 6:03 911 call. Seconds. You got to bring this thing full circle. If you don't, we're lost. It's almost like nothing makes any sense. Everybody's talking and being divorced from each other, separate from each other. It has to come full circle. Lank emulates the steps that he's taken from the time that he arrives at 34th Fairview with the steps and the health data on John O'Keefe's phone. Like it or love it, hate it or leave it, it doesn't matter. That is what happens. I don't understand why people... Hold on. And airplane mode, fire that by tampering, conspiracy, reading that. Yep. But it's funny, Three Clerk Monty, because I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to. Yeah, why is it? Like on purpose, but I mean, what's the purpose? I thought that everybody wanted to sort of like be on the same boat when it came to the information, because at the end of the day, is putting all these pieces together that will put the puzzle together, right? But one thing that came to mind, and I have to find out, I understood, I can't remember, and I don't know whether you can remind me, at 1:36, it was when it was noted that the phone went in the fire dieback outside frequencies. I gotta go back, and I know that I have that time, 1:36. So at 1:30 or so, you know who was already at Canton PD. Now, I published something on my X yesterday, and it was, one of the last models of the Faraday bags. There are some that have a plastic thing over it also, because you can actually put your hands in it and manipulate whatever is in it, but it doesn't register any location. But I'm going to have to go back to that. I don't want to talk without having it in front of me, and so I don't, but I'll look into it. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. is too long and I don't want to drag anybody with me, but I'll put my stuff together and then I will come back to it. So thank you. Thank you for making me company. I'll see you all soon.